When you think about the Himalayan region in India, probably the first image that comes to your mind is the tallest mountain in the world, as well as a natural wonder, the Mount Everest. Or maybe you think about the famous Sherpas, whose legendary ability to climb mountains is renowned around the world. However, I can assure you that a rampant waste problem is not even the third thing that came to your mind when you think about the Himalayas. And yet, the existence of a waste problem is very real in the region. One of the biggest problems of today in the Himalayas, especially in the area of the Harum, is a lack of proper waste disposal. This crisis has developed thanks to a multitude of reasons, like the waste removal systems that are in place. This crisis has developed thanks to a multitude of reasons, like the waste removal systems that are in place not being ready to handle the normal pressure that the population that lives there generates, and much less the extra pressure of anywhere between 1 million to 100 million tourists that come every year to the region, or it could be simply because the culture of recycling has not taken a hold in the population. Regardless of the reason for this waste crisis, it did inspire two young rebels to make a change in the community for the better. These two young rebels were Judy Underhill and Dashi Parek, who founded Waste Warriors in 2012. Since then, Waste Warriors has been fighting the waste crisis in the Harun, and throughout their work, the organization has managed to recycle more than 1,200 tons of solid waste. In this episode, we explore some of the recent history of the organization alongside Sonam Jansson, who is the project assistant of Waste Warriors. As such, without anything else to say, welcome one and all to this episode of the Voices of the South.
Welcome, Sonam Yangsom. Let me know if I pronounce right that one right. To the Voices of the South, it's a pleasure having you here. It's not the first time that we interview somebody from Waste Warriors, but it is the first time that we interview somebody who is representing Waste Warriors, the project, rather than the organization itself. You were talking to me before we started that you were one of the project assistants or the project assistants for the program, and you've been here for 7 months. The organization, however, has been going around for at least 2012, is if not a few years before, uh, with the mission and the goal to clean up the Himalayan region, a region that is super important for the environment, super important for the ecosystem of India, which is a huge place, but also culturally and religiously important in that region. Sorry, not that region, but many religions have that center as a holy place, even or as at least a spiritual important place, right? I don't know if you want to introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit of what is your goal and what you're doing in the organization at the moment.
First of all, thank you so much for having this interview with me. I'm glad to be here representing Waste Warriors, specifically the project that I am working on in Dharamshala, which is a place in the state of Himachal Pradesh. So I am Sonam Yangzam and I come from the remote Himalayan region. It's a valley called Spiti Valley. So that's where I live, and most of my education happened outside of Spiti in other cities of India. So I got scholarships, multiple scholarships, and that's how I completed my education. So, like, I think it's been 7 months since I've been working here, and since I come from a very marginalized background, a minority in India, you can say, I had a very like strong inclination for social issues, especially when I was doing my college studies. So I did sociology and environmental studies, and that's how I was able to understand these issues in depth. And I was also able to reclaim my own roots because growing up, you grow with that sense of I don't know, like a sense of shame, right? Oh, you are from a backward area where you should be going. So we see development as a linear thing that you have to achieve this, you have to achieve this, then you are developed. So I think my studies really helped me to rethink on the notions of development and question issues of development. So that's how my interest for the social sector grew. And I'm glad to be able to be contributing in the Indian Himalayan regions where I'm from, especially on the issue of waste, which is a very, very, very neglected domain. I would say not only India, but globally.
Absolutely. Let's go first with the first commentary of how we people that come from the global south it sort of are we're colonized in different ways, and one of those ways is that we I start believing that the communities that we originate from are not necessarily the best ones because we are not quote unquote develop it. Meanwhile, we are teach often to idealize the communities outside of the global south, right? Right. In my case, it was very much the U.S. We are always bombarded by the U.S. Being close to Mexico, you have everything is next door. You English. The people in the border towns they speak English, they speak Spanish, and some places just don't take Mexican pesos. They just take dollars from time to time. So yeah, as you said, like going out, having a scholarship, and then being in these beautiful places. Many of the times, beautiful places that were constructed through the packing and the rupture of original populations from the global south that were many of the times the wealth and the richness from those communities was forcibly translated, forcibly moved from, let's say, Brazil to Bilbao, from Mexico to Spain, or something like that. So yeah, it's impressive how we have gotten that mindset in our head, and but also very impressive that you managed to get out of it. It's not that easy. It basically shatters your whole point of view a lot of times. And now, talking a little bit about the problem of waste in the Himalayan region, which again that we were saying that is very important region for a lot of different cultural cultures that are in the region but also outside of it, and the importance of the ecosystem of it. In your webpage you say that it's about 8.4 million metric tons of waste per year. I don't know if you could give us a sort of like a no, not a number but a image to tie to that number, because it's very hard for a human mind to comprehend that large number. So I don't know if you would compare it to a mountain or something like that. How big would that hill would be if you can do that, or something similar?
Just thinking out loud, like I don't think I'll be able to like put it in like simple numbers, but I think like it's a very like serious issue that is not just like that you just not read in papers, but you see it in your everyday life. So even like the remotest of Himalayan regions, we see it slowly getting polluted. You know, if I talk about my own region, that was initially disconnected from the rest of the cities and the modern cities. There was not proper connectivity in the winters because it snows a lot. But then later you see that when the tunnel is being built, tourists are coming, tourist influx is increasing, and then you see how the area is not equipped to handle the waste. So because of the tourist influx, because of the locals consuming those fast moving consumer goods more often, the waste quantum and waste generation, it increases. So it all ties down to that notion of consumerism that we are like building in people, right? That is an ingrained, not just like not to point out, but it's in every one of us, each one of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Consumerism is one of the biggest reasons that we just keep producing trash, keep producing waste, because trash would be a very bad way of phrasing it, because a lot of the things that are wasted, well, it comes in the name. You can still use them, you can still find some use for them, but we just waste them. We just throw them away despite whatever we could maybe find. And well, you've been in the project for 7 months, but I don't know if you can talk to us a little bit of the start of the project. You were talking to me how it initiated, the persons that started it, why they started it, and I don't know if you can explain a little bit about that site.
If I talk about waste warriors, like waste warriors mainly works to institutionalize waste management systems in areas where there is no waste management system, and in areas where there is, to strengthen it even more. So we work across like multiple stakeholders and multiple regions. We work in urban areas also. In both the states of Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, we work in the capital cities as well, which is Dehradun and then Shimla in Himachal Pradesh. And we also work in very remote Himalayan regions because in Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, most of the population they reside in the rural areas. The rate of urbanization is very low. If I talk about Himachal Pradesh, 90% of the people they are residing in the rural areas. So it's like in urban areas there is still some system in place. They are collecting the waste and they are giving it somewhere, they are dumping it, but there is some system in place. But in rural areas, what happens is there is no system in place. So you can imagine for 90% of the population, there is no system of collection, waste management. They're just dumping it, they're burning it, or they're just throwing it in the water bodies, polluting the resources. So that thing is happening. So you can imagine the scale of the problem, 90% of the population. The main thing I would be talking about the rural waste management models that Waste Warriors is trying to build. Because my project, which is Dharamshala, it focuses on involving the rural communities in building a model and carrying that waste management model sustainably with the help of the communities, the local government stakeholders, the grassroots governance structures. So it works under multiple touch points. And in if I talk about the number of panchayats, so just to like simplify the words, panchayats are like local governance units. So you have the country and then the state, and within the state you have different districts, and even it is the smallest unit of governance. You can understand. So panchayats are the smallest unit of governance in a remote area. So in Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, we work across 52 panchayats. So we are working with these panchayats to build sustainable and community-driven models. And I think coming to like second part about your like second part of the question, like the motivation behind starting the project, why, the why behind it, right? So if I like reflect on it, the person who started it, the organization was Judy Underhill, right? So I feel that for her it came from that the spirit of love and respect you have for the place that you inhabit. So it comes from that. It is rooted in that. But now I think like especially in the Indian Himalayan region, our consumption patterns are changing, people's lifestyles are changing. Initially, it was more like a very circular economy hub, especially in the remote Himalayan regions. We ate, we ate what we were growing. There was not much import. It was a very locally suited production, consumption, and even construction patterns. We grew our houses with the materials that we could source locally, and whatever we consumed, we tried to repurpose it. So that was the picture if we talk about before capitalism took over. But now, like after it has taken over, it's like we can we can buy things from anywhere, we can import it from anywhere, and at the cost of convenience, most of the goods are coming packaged, right? So all of these packaged goods are reaching even the remotest areas, and that is creating a huge waste footprint. And also it is being amplified because of the tourists, because all of this Himalayan belt where we are working, it's a very high tourist influx area because of, like you said, natural, cultural, and religious significance. So very high tourist turnovers in these regions. So that complicates the problem of waste management even more. So the main idea is to work with the communities in these regions, especially in the rural areas, so that we can build on this project. I can speak more in depth about my project, like if you would like to continue. Yeah. Yeah, so the area where I'm working right now, it is Dharamshala. It's in the state of Himachal Pradesh, and Dharamshala is a block. So within this block, there are 27 panchayats. So we are working with seven panchayats right now, and each of the panchayats, the average population spans 1,000 to 1,500. So these are very big local governance units. And initially, when it started, I would like to talk a bit about the challenges that came, when we started with the mindset. Because if we talk about waste, waste is a very stigmatized domain, right? Like nobody wants to deal with it, everybody wants to just dispose it off. And especially in India, which is a very multicultural, multilingual, and multilingual country, there are many layers of inequalities, like we talk about the intersectionality of inequalities, gender, caste, religion, all of this, the area where you are from. So especially in India, it's tied to caste as well. Caste. So it's like the gender, not gender, but like waste and sanitation occupations are very stigmatized in that sense. So when we initially went to talk to people about the project, waste is not on their priority list. Like if we talk about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, first they need a good house, right? They need a good shelter. Then they need good health and good roads. Then they need good education for their children. So waste is like not on their priority at all. So when we first talk to the communities, it's very difficult to align that and make them understand that this is also an issue and it is going to impact you in the long term. So that alignment is a huge challenge, I would say initially, not with all of the people, but with some people. That alignment is a huge challenge. And second thing, if I talk about the challenges in the initial years, it would be like now we are working with people, we are trying to infuse behavior change within the community, right? Make them realize that this waste is an issue. It is going to enter into your canals. The plastic is going to enter into the canals. It's going to end up in your fields. And the crop that you grow, all of it is interconnected. So whatever you throw, it is going somewhere, right? It is not just getting disappeared. So, second thing was waste management is a very operations heavy domain, right? So, when we are setting up systems, we have to set up collection systems, we have to set up processing systems in our material recovery facilities, we have to set up labor who's going to engage in the segregation of the waste in different categories. Then, all of the other low grade material that comes, we have to send it off not to landfills but for incineration to other faraway regions. So since Himachal Pradesh is it is in a very like rugged terrain, right? So the presence of industries is very less. So we have to send to the plains the low grade material for incineration. So the logistic cost is even higher. So it is a very operations heavy domain, and there is a lot of money involved, the cost involved, operation expenses and capital expenses both. So but when we initially talk with the community, it's very difficult to make them realize that they have this notion that we are giving you waste and our waste is wealth, so you're going to sell it off, you're going to gain money, and on top of that you are taking service charges from us for collecting the waste. So do you get it? Like they had this notion that we are taking the waste which is wealth from them, selling it off, gaining money, and still we are charging user fees on them for collection. So to make them understand about the whole journey of the waste that they are giving, how we are managing it, the expenses that is involved. So that was also a very like huge challenge initially, I would say. And when we talk about waste, when we set up the project in Himachal Pradesh, like I said, presence of industries is very less. So it's also very difficult to find the networks, where you can send the waste for recycling. So initially, when we received waste, like you said, some of the waste can be converted into wealth. PET bottles, where we have high density polyethylene bottles, the glass bottles, the cardboard. These are high value waste items which we can sell and gain an income through the sale of recyclables, right? So that is correct. But then the 60% of the waste that comes to our segregation center in Dharamshala or specifically Rakkad, that is low value, which cannot be it cannot be sold, it cannot give any returns, money returns for us, and we have no option. We cannot dump it into the landfills because that would defeat our whole purpose, right, of recycling it. So then initially the challenge was to find that network that where we can also sustainably dispose of this low grade material, right, the 60% of the material that we get. Because in today's time, maximum waste that we generate, that we see on the streets, is those multi-layered packaging in which most of our things come. Like if we talk about Kurkure, the biggest brands, if we talk about Nestle, if we talk about all of the Haldirams, the local brands in India. So all of these goods are packaged in multi-layered packaging, which is convenient, but it cannot be recycled because it is made up of multiple layers. It is made up of plastic, it is made up of aluminum, so it cannot be recycled. So initially, the challenge was to find the networks that we can manage these waste also responsibly, right? So now we have sustained networks for every category of waste, but initially, yeah, there was a huge challenge to build those networks.
No, I can totally understand that creating the networks to make it work is difficult, as well as separating waste and as well as both making understand the people that waste can be something useful, but also how to properly dispose. It's a whole different way of seeing the world. and you are creating what is called an impact indicator because you're changing, or you're at least are attempting to change part of the culture, which is one of the hardest things to do because cultures take long time to be
Yeah.
formed and long time to be transformed. No, I can see what is happening back in Mexico. A lot of the rural communities, the majority of the time, because they don't have education, as you were saying, that we don't, the correct disposal or of our waste doesn't really fall
Uh-huh.
in any of the categories of the achievements of society. I guess, like we, as you were saying, we have food, we have education, we have realization, and waste is like nowhere to be seen,
Mhm.
and yet it's everywhere. But yeah, as you were saying, like a lot of the rural communities in Mexico, they burn down the trash, which is the best thing they can do because otherwise it's gonna just keep getting more and more and more and bigger, and it's gonna ruin the landscape. And many of those communities depend on the landscape as a source of income, but you cannot, if you burn it there, then it's gonna be consequences not necessarily immediately or as visible as the lands as it would be if you just have like a huge pile of trash in front of you. But you can develop sicknesses like cancer, you can develop respiratory issues and so on and so forth. So yeah, I can see how difficult it can be from moving the needle from A to B, and then to present it and be like, yeah, this is what we are trying to do. Um, so nonetheless, even more impressive, and talking about how difficult it can be to dispose of certain waste areas, like for example Tetra Pak, which is very convenient for basically everybody because it's a safe way to keep food, to keep anything that can go bad. If you put them into a Tetra Pak, it's basically putting them into a can, right? Like Tetra Pak did for us what the process of canning things did for the people in the Industrial Revolution. But it just became incredibly difficult to recycle and to reuse. Like, of course, you can repurpose it. You can create a small orchards. You can even build houses with it. But the waste is still present. The waste is still there. Which, talking about that, I see that you guys have a collaboration with Tetra Pak themselves, or at least that's what I understood. Maybe I am wrong. I don't know if you want to talk about that one a little bit, or if that's a beyond your scope, which totally understandable. But yeah, uh, you have a lot of different projects. One of them is, I don't know if it is with the company Tetra Pak, or it's just the Tetra Pak as in the product. But do you
Yeah.
want to talk about them?
So Tetra Pak is it's a separate project again. Like it's beyond my scope, but then it is what we do is we have done this partnership with them, and then all of the Tetra Paks that we generate, right? All of the Tetra Paks that comes to our center, that goes to up. We can say downcycling. It will not be upcycling because it is getting downcycled. It is still there, right? So we send it to centers in Gurugram, I think, where, and also a center in Uttarakhand, where it is getting downcycled into sheets, tetra sheets, and that is then later made into like tables, chairs, pen boxes, pen holders, all of this stuff.
Nice. Thank you still for giving us a small preview of what other projects in the organization are doing. So it's a little bit more of an understanding of what is happening because Waste Warriors is a huge organization, as far as I understood. I mean, you guys have been going about at least 23 years legally. That's an old organization. Have engaged with, in your website says 160,000 people, but I believe there is more. I don't know if this is the numbers of this year or these are the last year numbers, but it's a lot of moving pieces in a rather large organization. Um, but let us move on. You talked a little bit about what was the difficult part at the start of the program. What was how you talk a little bit, and I wanted to move a little bit on the middle side of the interview and focus on two things. So like the bad, the mistake, the fucked up that you have made, either just because, well, shit happens. It doesn't necessarily in your control, but also the most significant achievement for you. It doesn't really need to be like, oh yeah, now we got like $1 billion to work on this. It can be something very, very personal. And I want to ask this to sort of counterpoint your experience as a social innovator, as a social entrepreneur. Because if somebody else is listening to us who is younger and is starting and maybe it's like, oh shit, this feels this mistake is gonna be the end of the project and we're never gonna recover from this. And then they hear you and it's like, okay, if someone sort of fucked up this way, we can also find a way to fix it up and go and even achieve this kind of recognition or this kind of achievement after this mistake, right? If you can choose whatever you want to start with, you can start with the bad thing, with the good thing. It's up for you.
Like I said, in Waste Warriors, like we are working in different states and with different communities, right? So we have built different waste management models. So when we talk about waste management models, it can either be a very centralized model where waste of like many multiple panchayats and multiple local governing units are coming to one center, and then that is getting processed there, being sent to different end recyclers. So it can be a centralized model, and then, or it can be a very decentralized model where women from the community are coming as a collective, and women from the communities are coming as a collective, and they are running the whole system. So, like we have democracy and more like uh, democracy in which like more people are involved. So it can be like that. So in the particular project that I'm working on, it is more of a local entrepreneurship model. So the main idea is the areas where we are working, waste warriors cannot be there all the time, right? We cannot be there collecting, we cannot be there processing the waste, we cannot be there running the whole system. Ultimately, our focus is on building models on which the community takes the ownership, right? If I talk about the achievements or the good things that have happened, the highlights that have happened. So when we are working in panchayats, I said that it's very difficult to align people on the issue, first of all. And then second thing is achieving source segregation. Because like you said, it's very difficult to change culture, right? It's a very built-in habit in India or in most of our households that we will put all of our waste together. And then to build on that, what is dry waste, what is wet waste, why is it important to segregate this, why you should put in that extra effort. So that is also a huge challenge, but when we started working with communities, we have been able to achieve a very good rate of source segregation. So I feel that was a very huge highlight and huge uh, reflection of our efforts on the ground of our team members, because when it comes well segregated in our centers, like we know it is not difficult for even our green workers, the one who are manually segregating those waste, right? It's not difficult for them. Otherwise, because of the weather, uh, the insects come in, and it's ethically not fair for them, because they are the main warriors who are running this whole system, right? So when they are segregating that, so in communities, I would say that source segregation, when we were able to achieve because of our consistent efforts by our on ground team, the information, education, and communication workshops they were doing in the communities. So that was a huge highlight. Second thing I would say is, like I said, it's a huge challenge to get people to give waste and also give user fees. Areas right now, all the households, there are different rates for different kinds of units. So for households, they're paying 50 rupees. If I speak in the Indian currency, they're paying 50 rupees monthly for uh, for the waste collection service that they're giving, right? So it's 50 rupees monthly, and for shops it's 100 rupees, and for commercials it depends on the number of rooms and the quantum of waste that they generate. So second achievement was when we were able to onboard people. Like in most of our panchayats, the onboarding rate, initial the onboarding rate was more than 55%. So people were, after our consistent efforts by our team, people were willing to give the waste and the user fees. Like Some of the people will even give in advance. So if you are going to collect the waste for this month, they have this trust, and we have built this trust and rapport with the community that they're going to give for even November, December, they'll give in advance. So that awareness and initiative on the part of the community, that is a very like win for us. It's an everyday win for us because we see that maybe our efforts are not working out somewhere, but it is working out and we are trying. Some people are active, we meet all other different kinds of people on ground. So those will be like huge highlights, because if I talk about finances, like I said, we have collection and then processing charges and then the charges to send them to the end recyclers. So finances are very important if we want people to sustain this model, right? Because right now our project functions on funding from the private sector. We're getting the CSR money and then it's getting run through that. But then one day community has to be empowered to run the system on their own, right? They have to leverage the relevant public funds. We cannot always depend on the private, and we cannot depend on waste warriors always, right? So those kind of initiatives, when the community is active in giving the waste and the user fees, when the local governance heads, which we call pradhans and ward members. So these are people like in at the state level we have prime minister, right? At the country level we have prime minister. Similarly, at the local level we have pradhans. So the pradhans are also active in imposing fines. So if any open dumping is happening in their area, it is a law under Himachal Pradesh model bylaws and the Panchayati Raj Act that the pradhans have the power to impose fines. So recently, in one of our panchayats, Pradhan imposed a fine on the community, a fine of 5,000 rupees for irresponsibly managing the waste. So when we see the local governance leaders taking such action, we feel that our efforts are like taking shape in the ground. They are taking action. So I would like these would be the main highlights I think for us. And if I talk about the things that didn't work out, like the obstacles or the mistakes that we have made. So for waste management, like I said, it would be either be a centralized model or it would be a decentralized model. So in some of our areas, we have waste banks, waste banks in areas, and then from the waste banks, the waste is diverted into a central material recovery facility where it's processed, right? So in the current project that I'm working on, it's a more centralized model. So there are seven panchayats. Waste is collected from seven panchayats and it comes to our segregation center in Rakad. So finding finding a space. So that segregation center right now the capacity to process waste is not that much. So we have been continuously on the lookout for more lands so that we can build bigger facilities, right? Bigger material recovery facilities. But we have till date we have failed in like four attempts. We have failed in getting that land for building a material recovery facility. So I think it boils down to this notion that in India and even globally, especially in India, there is not much visibility of proper waste management systems in place. We see when we talk about waste, all the things that come to our mind is landfills, the landfills of Delhi, the Bhalswa landfill, the Gazipur landfill, oh, the landfills of Mumbai, oh, the landfill of Himachal Pradesh in Dharamshala, which is to there. So that is the thing that comes to people's mind when they think about waste management. So the visibility about sustainable waste management is minimal, I would say, even zero, we can say. So when we talk to people that we are going to build material recovery facilities, your waste is going to get, processed in a sustainable manner, they don't understand. They have this fear and they have this stigma around waste that they have this fear that, their area is going to turn into a dump site. So this major fear, it dictates like, how fear spreads, right? Then people will be like, yeah, it's going to impact our instead of understanding that the waste that comes is going to be responsibly managed and their area is going to get cleaner, all of their thought processes mostly are driven by the fear that it's going to get turned into a dump site. All of the waste is going to come here. It's going to smell like shit. It's going to smell like shit. And then it's going to impact our health. It's going to impact our environment. So, this is the misunderstanding. So, we have tried to get land in uh, like we are working in 7 panchayats, right? We have tried to get land in 3 of our panchayats. We tried to get land in Barwala, in Bagni Panchayat, and then in Narwana Khas Panchayat. But it like and then recently in Sukar Panchayat, but it has all failed because of multiple reasons. Multiple factors are coming into play. So sometimes it's the community's misunderstanding and the fear that it's going to turn into a dump site. Sometimes it's because of the internal community politics, because power politics is everywhere, right? Everyone is fighting for power. Even at the grassroots level, people are fighting to get that position of power. So all of that community internal power politics is coming sometimes. Sometimes that misunderstanding. So sometimes lack in the awareness gap. All of that is coming, and we have failed to secure a land still for building a bigger facility in our Dharamshala Panchayat. But still, we are trying. We are trying through different government departments if we can get a land of forest, especially because waste management is a very, it's not only stigmatized, but it can have disastrous consequences, especially in an eco-sensitive region like Himalayas, right? We cannot build a system near a water body, because what if the water body's level increases and it just takes? Then it's going to be a disaster, and we don't want that. So we have to be very sensitive about choosing the land, about the people's perceptions, being patient about the administrative delays as well. But we are still trying because, like, our organization's name is also Waste Warriors. So we have that warrior spirit within us. So we are continuously trying, and also we are trying to take a step back and rethink on the strategy, how it can work out, where we should start, should we take it slow? So, yeah, I think that has been like a huge challenge for us, or it can be some things that can be corrected on our side. So, yeah.
We hope you're enjoying this episode. As you probably know, the Voices of the South survives thanks to the support of the people around the project. And if you like our work, we ask you to consider supporting us. There are several ways to support the project. The best way you can support us is by subscribing to our Patreon, where you can support us with $1 a month and receive various benefits, such as our exclusive series, The Echoes of the South, where we feature the stories of social innovators from the Global South who are no longer with us, but whose work was fundamental in changing the world. If you can't support us on Patreon but still want to help, the best way to do this is by subscribing to the podcast, giving us a rating, leaving a comment, and most importantly, sharing the episode with someone else. Any of these actions help us reach more people and thus gain more support. Now, let's go back to the interview.
I'm going to start with the last challenge because politics, as you say, are incredibly complicated. Even when you're trying to do something good, you might be stepping on the toes of somebody who you might not even know who exists, but for whatever reason, they have an interest on keeping the situation as it is, right? It happened, for example, one of our previous guests in Mexico, they were working or they're working towards making the coffee production in Mexico less less predatory towards the people that actually farm the coffee, which is like the biggest work of it. And because they were trying to rebalance the scales of power, somebody on the other side was like, "No, I don't want this. This is not good for my interest. In this case, my monetary interest. So I'm just gonna make the most that I can to make you guys fail." So
Mm.
I mean, it could be something similar to what is happening. No, a politician, maybe not on the monetary gain, but maybe, as you say, like a politician being like, no, if I allow these people to create a huge ass waste field, sorry, what's it called? I forgot the name of them, but
Material recovery facility. Yeah, MRF.
yeah. No. That's how you call it, but how the politician would understand it would be like, yeah, this is gonna be just
Dump site.
an open
Dump site.
air dumpster,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that that's how they are understanding it, rather than okay, they want to do like a proper uh, technical, methodological. Like you have a plan, you have an idea of what you want to create and how you want to change things. But I'm pretty sure that the politician is gonna. The only thing he's gonna hear is like waste grounds. That's the two words that are gonna end up in the head of this person, and that obviously is not gonna help. For them to become, I don't know, maybe the governor of the region or whatever they aspire to. So I can see how politics can become a pain in the ass. I'm sad about that, but I'm also quite glad to hear that the grassroots is starting to move and the people on the streets are starting to understand why this is important and how this can actually change their lives. And I'm pretty sure that at some point, eventually, the snowball is gonna be big enough that the politicians are gonna be like, "Hey, you know what? Yeah, maybe we don't want to make it that hard. Maybe we actually want to support you because now the people are understanding that this is important. That having a proper way to dispose of waste and to redispose it either by upcycling or downcycling or whatever you want to name it, it's important. So thank you very
Mm.
much, Shanhan, for sharing both the successes that you feel that you have achieved with the project and of course the challenge that you have seen in front of you. Okay, let's then go to something that you also started to let us know a little bit during your chat and perhaps your goal for the next year, which is the future. As far as I assume, or as far as I understood, one of the goals that you have is, or the most immediate one, is to actually manage to get a land space to create. Now you can tell me the name, please, like the full name of the MR material recycle
MRF.
MRA.
MRF.
Yeah. So now you actually want to like I understand that that is the next goal to get the land
Mm.
space to create an MRA, but I don't know if you have another goal or anything that you want to sort of share with us right now.
For me, like you said, that is the most immediate goal, right? On which our operations team is also working continuously to identify possible lands, licensing with the government officers. So that's a very important thing that we are focusing on right now. The second thing is in Dharamshala project, I look after community engagement. Like I lead the community engagement efforts in the Dharamshala project. So my main work is focused on how community engagement, behavior change communication can be made more fun and innovative. You know, so mm, teaching people about waste, why it's important to segregate, how does it impact our planet, our health, and all the interconnected resources, right? How does it impact that? So, my goal and also the things that I'm doing right now is on gamifying the IEC that we call the information, education, communication, right? Gamify it. We want to make learning about waste fun for people, fun for our communities, and also participatory. So I think that is the main focus, and we're also working on how theater can be used, how play can be used to make people aware about the ways, about the journey of ways, and what we are actually doing with it as waste warriors. So recently we did a theater play as well, Nukkad Natak, our own local team. We created like separate characters. So it's a street play kind of form where we are interacting with the communities and we are we mostly personify the waste characters, like one becomes a surf packet, one becomes a plastic bottle, and one becomes a cardboard, and then we try to simplify the learning thing for people, right? Where it actually goes, what happens, why it's important. So through play, through humor, and through emotion, we are trying to do that, and that is my goal in the upcoming months as well. And second thing is right now, like for our rural projects to be sustainable, right? There are two things that are very important. Firstly, like I said, community ownership. Community ownership is very important. They have to realize and they have to resonate with the issue and realize why it's important to carry out these things on their own, right? And the second thing is increasing the onboarding rate. Right, like right now, I said that our communities in our communities 55% is the average onboarding rate. So the rest of the people, we are it's difficult to convince them to give waste and user fees for multiple reasons. Like one of the reasons can be they don't have waste, they don't generate waste. Or second excuse that they give is they why should they give waste and even money for it, like the 50 rupees I mentioned, why should they give that? So one other thing that I want to focus on is how that onboarding rate can be increased by leveraging competition among panchayats. You know, so till now our team has done endless IAC workshops on bringing the panchayats to this level. So right now, in the coming time, I want to focus on how the data sharing between the panchayats can be streamlined through a scorecard idea, through a scorecard idea. So we launched, like we are working in 7 panchayats, right? The seventh one is new, but if we talk about the sixth, we launch a kind of like a competition, and we mark them on different metrics, like how how their how their panchayat is making efforts towards moving towards zero waste panchayats or villages. So it can be different metrics, right? It can be what is the onboarding rate of their panchayat, how many people are giving user fees, how many people are actively trying to remove the dump sites or the hotspots, how many times the pradhan has fined. So there are different metrics. So I want to through the scorecard idea, I want to leverage competition and make the increase the onboarding rate. That is the impact we are trying to achieve. So these are two things. And the third thing is, like I said, ownership of the model, right? Waste management is a very operations heavy domain. There are a lot of expenses involved. So if I talk about data for our panchayats right now, for collection, they are paying 50 rupees per month, right? But the collection actual collection charges are 75 rupees per month. So the gap funding is done by waste warriors as an organization for all the panchayats. And second thing is the processing charges. So their waste is coming now, and the waste has to be segregated into different categories, and the labor that is involved, that is they get wages, right? So according to that, we have calculated a cost that for processing it is 5.75 rupees per kg. So for processing 1 kg of waste, that is 5.75 rupees is the charge. So panchayats right now, they don't have the funds to pay the processing charges. So all of the 100% of the processing charges is borne by waste warriors. Right now, it has been three years since the project has started, right? And now it's the fourth year. So we are trying to strategize that how more and more of the public funds can be used to run these rural waste management models, and how the panchayats can be empowered about these, right? So there are different ways through which the public funds can be leveraged. So one is we at the panchayat level, they prepare plans like gram panchayat development plans, and then the central government is running several schemes and several programs for sanitation. One notable central government program is the Swachh Bharat Mission, which is focused on clean India, right? So it is it allocates certain grants to states and the local bodies and the panchayats. So our main idea is to strategize on how maximum public funds can be leveraged so that panchayats can become sustainable financially, right? So that is our main focus. And in the coming months and in the coming years, we want to focus more on that because we cannot keep running the system, right? So these are few of the things that I and my team we are focusing on in the coming months.
Just a few things, but like making individual agents, and by agents I mean the whole Pangaean is the proper way of pronouncing it, like the municipality or the community way that is
Panchayat.
organized.
Mm,
Pangaean,
mm,
making individual Pangaean to be independent and sustainable. It's a challenge. So
yes.
congratulations on trying to eat the world. I know that you are gonna find a way to actually manage it. And I'm very hopeful that you're gonna make it. I love to hear how you and your team seem to be so focused on making it happening when the population, for the people working with you outside of an organization, but for the people working with you being so involved and taking ownership of the project, which many of the times that's when the projects fail down. Like that's when you don't, yeah, you cannot keep going further because the people that you're working with
Mm.
are not adopting the project. Like it's just not going because the leadership goes, and then the people that were supposed to keep going, they just don't do it because it's not their project. It was always one person or two persons project, right? So I'm quite happy to hear that you guys are working towards that, even though you have a small. You've been only here for a relatively short time, especially when compared to the life of the organization. It's relatively short, but I'm very happy to hear that you are already thinking and trying to make it to make a change. Which this brings me back to another question that I forgot to answer, and I'm gonna blame this one on my cold, the cold that is hanging above me. And I want to ask you a little bit about your team. Um, this this question originally should have gone at the start of the interview, but I yeah, my cold is a pain in the ass. So I forgot about it. I don't know if you mind to share a little bit about the people that is working with you.
So we are currently a team of 7 people right now, and including the interns, we have around 10. Yeah, 10 people. Including the interns, we are a team of 7 people. So initially, when the project started, the team was much larger because obviously a lot of groundwork needs to be done, going and communicating with the people, trying to make them understand. So at that point, it was a larger team of around 14 to 15 people. So I think if I speak about my team, all of them have their own unique strengths and ways of dealing with situations, right? And especially since like i am I'm young, like not only in the development sector but also in the organization, right? It's been a short while. So when I first came, there was a lot I could learn from them because they have seen the project from the start, right? When it started and the initial backlash that they had to face and initial resistance from the communities, so they have seen the ground realities. So I was able to learn a lot from them about their initial challenges, how they tackled, and how they are handling conflicts in communities. So there's a lot to learn, and it's a very like mixed group of people, and especially about the kind of like culture and relationship we have been able to build and the ownership of the project. So that is like very much there. That is like this project is not just, it's not just something that is handed down to us, but there is an ownership that it is our project. We need to like make it better. We need to increase the user fees collection. We need to increase the onboarding rate. We need to, you know, think of, how to deepen our understanding about the domain. We need to deepen our understanding about the policies. So all of this ground experiences, that ownership of the project, that is there, and that has been very helpful for me because the team comes with certain skill sets and certain experiences. So yeah, that has been a very rewarding experience working with the
Do you
team.
have any people that you want to mention, like specifically, or you think that they would appreciate an anonymity, which is always valuable, and it's always good to have if the people wants to remain unmentioned. But
Yeah, there are multiple people. The person who leads the project, like I am the assistant project manager here, right? So the person who leads, like whom I report to, Arpit. So Arpit has also been very helpful because in social sector you need a lot of patience, right? You need a lot of patience. So you cannot see impact in one day, in one night. It needs a lot of patience. Sometimes it backfires. So sometimes I feel I am very like ambitious. I'm very like high achiever kind of person, and I want to like see things like being done, like seeing impact on ground, right? So even my manager and my senior manager, they have been very helpful. My captain, I would say, they have been very helpful in grounding me. It's okay. It's okay. Like you said, sometimes things don't work out. It's okay. Like it doesn't have to always go as it is planned, right? So that initial, that kind of like relaxed atmosphere, you're also passionate, but you also have to be patient. Sometimes you have to take a step back, right? When things are not working out. So I would really like to, like I'm very grateful for this supporting environment that I get, you know, because sometimes I feel when things are not working out, it's like more pressure, internal pressure that I'm creating for myself. Okay, step back, it's okay. So yeah, overall, it's been great working with all of the team members.
No, yeah, perfect. Thank you very much for sharing a little bit more about the team and for taking the question out of order. We're going to start in the last section of the interview. In this section, I would like to ask you some questions. Some of them are a little bit of hypothetical, some of them are advices that you can give to the people outside that are hearing us or will be hearing us when the episode come out. And I want to start with that one, if you don't mind. I would like to start with what would you recommend to any social entrepreneurs, especially those that share a little bit of your background? Either they are female entrepreneurs, they are coming from a vulnerable background, as you say that you come from. Yeah, I don't know what would be your best advice. You just said that, hey, in social innovation, in social aspects, you need to be patient and you need to try to make it slow. And sometimes things are not going to work the way you want to, but sometimes things are going to move faster or maybe slower. But you need to be disciplined. It's like running a marathon, not a sprint. Any other advice that you would like to share with anybody who might be a Sonam but younger or maybe older who wants to
Mm.
start to start their journey into social entrepreneur?
So I think one very like important advice that has stayed with me is like when I was working in my previous organization as well. When we are working in the social sector, we have this notion that, we are doing something for the communities and we sometimes forget the lens of dignity through which we look at communities. So we feel like we are making change and we place ourselves on a higher pedestal and we don't try to understand the community's perspective, and we don't try to get into the community's shoes, where they're coming from. We are coming with our own agenda, but for the community, that is not their agenda. They have multiple other things going on, right? So to align on that, to be empathetic about that, and to come with a very openness, I would say, openness and respect for the communities where you work, especially when we are like living in this world, where, like I said, coming back to my initial point, where we see like success as a benchmark, where you have to reach certain behaviors which are seen as more desirable. Consumerism, you have certain objects, you achieve a certain class, then you are seen as more desirable. So when we visit communities, we have like, I think that lens of dignity and that lens of respect for their culture, for their opinions, for their experiences, and that openness is very important, because then only we can create participatory solutions. Otherwise we are just imposing, right? Then only we can work together with the communities and co-create solutions. Otherwise we are just going with our agenda and imposing it on them. So it shouldn't feel like that. Then it's like another form of colonization, right? We think like we are the higher ones and we know things they don't know. We are here to teach them, but it doesn't work that way. It is a two-way learning, especially when we are working in grassroots communities. It's a two-way learning. So to get on the same level, to be open, I would say, and to look at communities with a lens of dignity, so that we can really create solutions of which communities take ownership. It is not just imposed on them. For that, for imposition, like I feel like uh, imposition can be done by anyone, like our police force that focuses on imposition, right? Imposition of rules and imposition of that. But getting levels with the communities and trying to understand from their shoes, that is rare. So yeah, that is one thing I would like to
No,
share.
thank you. It's a very valuable advice to be inclusive and to be as participatory as you can be, because yes, as you say, otherwise you just become part of the colonizing machine of saying, yeah, I know better than you do. And
Yeah.
knowledge is something that we have, for whatever reason, we decided that knowledge is something that only comes from institutional sources like universities, like
Mm.
schools or something like that. When knowledge is also something that comes from experience and from tradition at the end of the day.
Mm.
And there is nothing wrong from taking knowledge from both sides. Both of the two sides have different things to offer, and even though one might be a little bit more methodological and uh, clean up to a point, if you want
Mm.
to say it, and the other one might be a little bit messy, it doesn't mean that they don't work the same for different in different areas in different spaces. So it's very important to keep at least your feet going up down and trying to feel the waters and sometimes being more flexible. Monitoring evaluation and learning is important, but sometimes the people that you're talking to, they want to be motivated, they want to feel alive. And I assure you know that if you go with your Excel sheet and be like, yeah, this is what we do it, people are going to look at the sales sheet and go, this is so boring. And yet
Mm.
super important to get funding, super important to demonstrate where you're going, right? But yeah, at the end of the day, different kind of knowledge, but the two of them are very valid, and it's very important to not try to become a colonizer inside your own community by saying that you're the one that knows.
Mm.
So thank you very much for the advice. We are then going into the next question, which was also a little bit more on the top, but I want to ask it because I don't want to skip it, and I want people to listen to you when you say that. But what would be the reason that you think you are being successful? I mean, you are working in a big area, and despite not having the land space to put the MRA, you are coordinating at least five or more communities, right?
Uh, seven,
Seven
seven.
communities, sorry. You are coordinating at least seven communities, which is a lot. I don't know how many people, but India usually has highly dense population areas. So I imagine that these seven communities probably are about in the at least 40,000 each, even living in a region that is relatively hard to access as the Himalayas. I would assume that it's about 40,000, maybe 50,000 each of the communities.
So the population density in the Himalayan region, it is much lesser compared to the plains because the settlements are scattered, especially where the terrain is more steep and more rough. The population density even becomes lesser. So currently we are working across seven panchayats, and in these panchayats there are multiple villages, and we are working with a total of 4,018 units. These units can be commercial units, residential units, or they can be other public units such as government schools, hospitals, private schools, and other kind of private offices. So, 4,018 units amounts to roughly around 20,000 people that we are directly working with in our current project.
Even so,
Mm.
you're talking around 10,000 people, more or less.
Yeah. Mm.
It's a lot of it's a lot of people. It's a lot of ways. It's a lot of coordination. It's a lot of logistics. So I would like to ask you again, what do you think? I know it's impossible to narrow it down to one thing, but if you were able to, what would be the reason why you think the project is being successful?
Why I think right now, right? Why the project is a success? I think like there are multiple things, multiple factors at play. One of the main would be like the teamwork and the ownership of the project. That would be the most important factor, because because of that we are able to onboard a lot of people. Because of that we are able to make the necessary uh, interventions in the communities. So the coordination and the teamwork and the ownership of the project as a whole. The second thing I would say is I think collaboration, collaboration between different departments. So like we as waste warriors, we cannot do everything by ourselves, right? We cannot do it alone. Like the famous African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. So I think our success, the secret of our success lies in collaboration. Right now we are working in the panchayats, but then we are not doing it alone. We are working with the communities, we are working with the like I said, the head of the panchayat, which is called the Pradhan, the local governance unit head. We are working with the Pradhan, we're working with the block level administration, which is a bit like higher level administration, to continuously, try to encourage people to, take efforts for the waste management system. So we are working with the block development office, we are working with the forest department, and we are also working with the rural development department, like rural development department and panchayati raj department of Himachal Pradesh as a whole, with which we have also signed an MOU, which is we have also signed a memorandum of understanding that Waste Warriors is going to help the panchayats build sustainable models, and we are going to help in the behavior change communication. So I think one is team ownership of the project, and second is the power of collaboration and working together. Collaboration with multiple stakeholders.
That makes all the sense in the world. Having the collaboration and having the ownership of the project, not only uh, being in 2 or 3 people, but everybody makes the project, although a little bit more complicated to coordinate, way way better at lasting and way better at achieving its goals. Thank you very much for answer. Well, before we go to the last few questions, this is an open space for you. Anything that you want to share that you think we didn't cover in the organization in the questionnaire, in the interview that you can share to everybody, and or yeah, any topic or an idea that you would like to share with the audience.
I think like just a call to, like, how other people can support us or support our innovation. So I would just like to talk a bit about that. So I feel like right now our project currently does not have a funder. So we get CSR funding for 3 years, right? So that has ended, and right now our project does not have a funder. And like I said, it takes a village to raise a child. We are working across and with different stakeholders. So I think, like, I would just like to give a call that if any organization or any individual is interested in this funding opportunities, or interested in supporting us in some way, like, we would be glad to work together with you. And second thing, I would just like to talk about, like, the idea of volunteership, right? So in non-profits, we have funding shortages, right? Funding is a huge challenge. So we try to maximize the impact with minimum resources and minimum funding and all of that. So I think one other thing that one very powerful thing through which we can do this is volunteership, right? People who are ready to volunteer with their skills or with their expertise in research. So, like, since we are an organization that focuses on streamlining waste management systems, so in that uh, geographic information sensing, like remote sensing, you are using mapping tools to locate hotspots. So if anyone would like to share these skills with us, or maybe do workshops with our team members in their skill building, or in any other domain, like I mentioned, theater as well. Theater can be also a very powerful form of social change and communication, right? Behavior change communication. So if anyone, any expert would like to collaborate with us, I would like, we would love to take it forward.
Perfect. Well, that's that's it for us. Thank you very much for coming to the interview. Thank you very much for taking the time and for sharing the information and the stories that you have shared with us. Um, it was a pleasure having you here, Son. I don't know if you want to say anything else before we close the interview.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here again. Showing up despite your cold. I hope you get well soon and you recover, right? So I had a great time speaking about the project, speaking about my own internal motivations, and also about my own background, where I come from, and my own experience in the non-profit sector. Thank you for having me here. I had a very good time.
Thanks for listening. That's the entire episode, and we hope to see you on the next edition of The Voices of the South. Many thanks to our patrons, as this work would be impossible without them.